You know, one of the most important documents you will ever have in your property management business is the lease, okay? You definitely have the contract with the owner if you're managing for others, but you also have contracts with leases. They give up one of the most vital rights in real estate ownership, which is the right of possession. You're on behalf of the owner, either yourself or another person if you're managing for someone else. You're giving the right of possession to someone else, okay? And all they got to do is give you a deposit and rent. So it's if you think about it, it's a pretty high risk business, okay? It's really not. It's just if you think of it in those terms of what's one of the most important rights? Right of possession, right? They say that possession is 9/10 of the law sometimes, okay? So the lease is really important. Where I see a lot of property managers make the mistake is they use like an internet lease, something they get off the internet, right? Or a homegrown lease, or something they had their attorney write, okay? I'm not knocking attorneys. One of my best friends is an attorney, and you got to have them. They're in our business, and we need them just like we need doctors and everybody else. Okay, but the challenge is I can't say this specifically for the Canadian provinces, but I can say it for the U.S. states. Every state has a board of realtors. I mean, we do it in Canada too, obviously, right? But the contracts, the real estate contracts in the states, in most states, have been pre-approved all the way up to the state Supreme Court level. Vital information to have here. What that means is that lease will be supported in the court system all the way to the top. That can't be said for other non-pre-approved leases, okay? And these leases, by the way, I'm describing to you, you can get from your board of realtors. You can get, if you're an agent, you already have access to them. If you're a client, you make sure, that's that property management company, say, has this lease been pre-approved all the way through the state Supreme Court system? The answer is no, you need to get one, okay? That doesn't mean you can't have your own rules and regulations. You absolutely can. They'll be in the form of an addendum. So just for those of you whose feathers are ruffling right now, just relax, everything's going to be okay. I used to do the same thing you're doing. I used to have my own lease that I got out of a training manual I had. And I learned through being a broker some hard lessons, okay? And there's a famous case out there, you can look it up. Judge Weddick is a famous judge in the Allegheny County, Western Pennsylvania. And there was a case of a landlord who was renting to a Section 8 tenant receiving Section 8 subsidy. The landlord had to evict a tenant. The landlord won at the magistrate's level. The tenant went and got a free attorney from Neighborhood Legal Services, okay, who appealed the case to the Court of Common Pleas. It first goes to what's called arbitration. Usually arbitration is 3 retired judges and or attorneys who hear the case, okay? The owner won there. And then the free lawyer from Neighborhood Legal Services appealed again to the actual Common Pleas level where Judge Weddick heard the case. As soon as he saw the Section 8 lease, remember this is Section 8 lease from HUD, Housing Urban Development, okay? The judge said, well, I don't recognize that lease. It hasn't been pre-approved in our state Supreme Court, our state court system all the way to the Supreme Court level. Therefore, I'm not going to hear the case, and you got to start all over again. And this had already gone on for 13 months, okay? So if you're not convinced now, I don't know what will convince you. But the point is this, is always use the leases that are pre-approved in your state's court system, okay? They come from your realtor's board. And also, by the way, they all already meet what's called the plain language laws, okay? So you've got the guarantees in place to protect you. I mean, the leases are definitely neutral. They're going to protect tenants and owners alike, okay? Now, plain language laws is something that goes up to the federal level, okay? Every contract has to meet what's called the plain language laws. In other words, most people should be able to understand the language in the contract, in this case, including leases. So, okay, assuming we beat that horse to death, you understand to use your pre-approved leases. It doesn't mean you can't have your own language added to that, and we do that in the form of addendums, okay, form of addendums. So an addendum is attached to the contract. You reference the addendum in the contract, see Pleas addendum A, excuse me. An addendum, you'll list your own rules and regulations that are all okay to do as long as they don't conflict with local, state, federal laws, okay? So in there you might have an example of where you might say tenants are responsible for their own trash cans. Now you might think, well, why would I have to say that? Believe me, you'd be surprised at the things you got to say. So that's one of the examples. You might say no firearms in the apartment, okay? That's not violating the law, so it's okay to say that. No flammable liquids in the apartment. no illegal drugs in the apartment. You'd be surprised at the things you got to say. The point is, as long as you say them in there and they're legally acceptable, they don't conflict with local, state, federal laws, you can do it. And then if you ever have to go to court, you've already got it documented that everybody signed. Okay? So yes, you can put in your own language in the form of an addendum. Okay? And by the way, the addendum overrides what's in the original contract, the addendum that the addendum is attached to. Okay? So, in any case, that's the lease. And by the way, speaking of rules and regulations, I'll go over that with you in a separate video. In fact, if you want the rules and regulations, I think that is made available to you in your material. And this is we have an example of a lease in here. This lease is from Virginia. Okay, Virginia State Lease Pre-Approved Board of Realtors, all the way up to the state Supreme Court system. And in here, I believe, is a list of rules and regulations. So I think it's actually in the book that you get. Oh, here it is, rules and regulations. And there it is. All right, page 101 starts there and goes on to page 103. There you go. Lots of rules and regulations. So use those in the video notes. Click on the link. Go there, enter your email address, and they will send you the list of rules and regulations for free. You can use mine. Okay. And again, so hope you like that. I'll go over those next. The rules and regulations. You can see what it's all about. Take care. God bless. We'll see you on the next video.